Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of the daily news analysis by SRIRAM'S IAS, where we take up the important articles featuring in the Hindu newspaper and break them down for our understanding from the UPSC examination point of view. So let's start our today's discussion by taking up the important articles which appear in the newspaper. And yesterday we also found a comment on the yesterday's video that the illusion of being faster than light article was not taken. We missed out on that article, so we'll take that up today. So let's start with our first article of the day. The first article which appears in the newspaper reads, Center to promote destinations in 15 states as a part of the Swadesh Darshan 2. Now this particular article appears in the newspaper which highlights a critical scheme of the central government, that is the Swadesh Darshan scheme. So from the examination point of view, we'll try to understand what is this Swadesh Darshan scheme and what is this new Swadesh Darshan 2 or the 2.0 version of this scheme. So this becomes important for us from the GS2 and GS3 perspective, especially where we study schemes in the GS2 part. So let's understand what is the Swadesh Darshan scheme. The Swadesh Darshan scheme, as the name is suggesting, is basically a scheme in the sector of tourism sector. So as we know, the tourism sector is a very critical sector for India, wherein close to 15% of total employment of India is actually supplemented in the tourist sector. So 15% of the total people employed are in the tourism sector in India. So it greatly contributes to employment, and apart from employment, also to contributing to the GDP of the country, where people internally also travel and a lot of foreign travelers also come to India. So therefore tourism is very critical, and to enhance this capability of realizing the true potential of tourism sector, Indian government is keen on pushing this sector and developing this sector. So in the same move, the scheme of Swadesh Darshan is another move in that direction. So as the name suggests, this scheme is basically to promote the heritage structures as well as the sites which are very important and need to be promoted. So it is a central sector scheme, which means that there are two types of scheme. One is a centrally sponsored and one is a central sector. Whenever it's a central sector scheme, it would mean that all the funding that would be done by the central government. So the name would suggest us over here that it is a 100% central funded scheme, or which is also known as a central sector scheme. It was launched in the year 2014-15 for integrated development of theme-based tourist circuits in the country. So what it envisages is that in order to promote tourism and to promote bulk of tourist site and to first link them in a circuit, it is envisaging a form of tourism circuit development, wherein a particular theme would be taken, and based on that theme, various sites which are relevant to that tourism theme would be connected, and a tourism circuit as a whole would be promoted. So this is the nature of the scheme, and this scheme is envisioned to synergize with other schemes like the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Skill India and Make in India. How this will get synergized with these schemes, we'll understand in a bit. So under this scheme, the Ministry of Tourism provides central financial assistance, as we saw that 100% funding is given by the central government. This would be given to the state governments and union territory administrations for infrastructural development of the circuits. And one of the objectives of the scheme is to develop theme-based tourist circuits on the principles of high tourist value, competitiveness and sustainability in an integrated manner. So what are these circuits? So under the scheme, 15 tourism circuits have been highlighted, and these are being taken as development of the tourism circuits. What are these circuits? The Buddhist circuit. So under this circuit, all the Buddhist tourism sites would be interlinked. We also saw the Ambedkar circuit a few sessions ago. Then there is a coastal circuit. Then there is desert circuit, eco circuit, heritage circuit, Himalayan circuit. All of these circuits will generally have those tourism sites which are linked to this particular theme. So this scheme is basically taking theme as its core criteria, and based on that theme, it is creating the tourism circuits. Similar are the Krishna circuit, Northeast circuit, Ramayana circuit, rural circuit, spiritual circuit, Sufi circuit, Tirthankar circuit, tribal circuit and the wildlife circuit. We can see the themes being reflected in these circuits, and what basically is going to happen is that under this theme, the nearby areas and the prominent places which represent this theme would be taken and would be joined in this circuit to not just give or build infrastructure in one particular tourist place, but develop a network of places which represent a singular theme. That is the, one can say, the primary differentiating point of this scheme. So what would be the objective of bringing such a scheme? Like we saw, it is to augment the tourism sector potential in India. So it is to rejuvenate and spiritual augmentation of important national and global pilgrimage and heritage sites. So in order to give the required impetus of the heritage sites that exists in India, not much is known about them to the people of the world, and to therefore to disseminate right information about these sites to the public, that it is one of the objectives of taking up this scheme. Second is follow community-based development and create awareness among the local communities. So one objective is to create awareness among the local communities, and what this will do, it will also increase the opportunities for employment of the people living around these tourist places. So it's a scheme to augment the employment in these areas, to also create opportunities for self-employment for these people, so that they can take up their own initiatives and one can say carry out businesses in those particular tourist areas. Then it is the another objective is to carry out integrated tourism, as we saw in the circuit development of heritage city, local arts, culture, handicrafts, cuisine and other things to generate livelihood, as we saw. Then another is to strengthen the mechanism of bridging the infrastructural gaps. This is one of the most critical objectives of this scheme, where the money is going to be poured in to actually improve the infrastructure around these tourist sites. Since it is infrastructure can mean those kind of facilities which ensure the safety, sanitation and other facilities around these areas. So these infrastructure facilities would be improved and introduced under the scheme. So these are the objectives of it. So when we talk about now the funding, how will the funding take place? As I mentioned earlier, whenever we see the term central sector scheme, we automatically can understand that it would be 100% funded by the center. So under this scheme, the Ministry of Tourism is going to provide the funds to the states and union territories all by itself. For this, it has established the central government fund, and to improve sustainability of the project, it also seeks to involve public-private partnership and the corporate social responsibility as well. So these are the components of the Swadesh Darshan scheme, which we saw is introduced by the center, which is a totally central funded scheme, and it has theme-based developments of tourism sites which are known as tourism circuits. Now, what the article is talking about is of a second version of this Swadesh Darshan scheme. What this second version is talking about now? Now the focus is shifted from theme-based to destination-based. Rather than keeping the development theme-based, which was a part of the earlier scheme, now they want to keep it destination-based. So for this destination, 15 states have been demarcated, and from those 15 states, 2 heritage sites each from each state has been taken, and now they are going to be developed. So close to 30 sites we can say that will be developed under the Swadesh Darshan 2 scheme, and these 15 states are the prominent states from Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. So which 2 heritage sites would be taken from these states? The article states that public consultations were done and the states were consulted on this behalf. So what are some of the sites that are being taken from the states? Jhansi and Prayagraj are the 2 cities which are taken from UP. Gwalior, Chitrakoot and Khajuraho are taken from Madhya Pradesh, and Ajanta and Ellora caves are the sites taken from Maharashtra. So these are some of the examples that are taken that would be the sites that are taken for development under this scheme. So one difference that we can note over here is that under this scheme, the theme-based model of the first version has been changed to the destination-based model. So this was the important information with respect to the Swadesh Darshan scheme, and with this we can move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads, Tamil Nadu launches mission to save critically endangered vultures. Now this particular article becomes important in the backdrop of conservation of vultures. Now we might have seen vultures in few photos here and there, but the reality is that the population of vultures today in India and in around the world as well is very fastly depleting. So therefore the increased conservation efforts are required, which the Indian government is also taking in this regard, but increased conservation is required with respect to conserving the population of vultures. So from the examination point of view, we'll understand what are the important points related to the vulture, what are the different types of species that are existing in India, and what are the conservation efforts that the central government is taking, and now, as the article is talking about, what is Tamil Nadu going to do about it. So let's understand about the vultures. So what has Tamil Nadu done? First of all, Tamil Nadu has formed a state level committee to conserve the vultures. And why should they be conserved? The vultures hold a very critical place in the animal ecosystem, or the food chain system also, which we can say. They are basically carrion eating birds. What do we mean by carrion eating birds? Those birds which eat the dead bodies or leftover of the flesh that is being killed by a predator or a carnivores. These birds are known as carrion eating birds, and vultures are a type of carrion eating birds, and they are very important in the ecosystem because their scavenging lifestyle is that gives them a bad reputation, but that makes them so important for the environment, nature and society, because they are the garbage cleaners, and they are basically responsible for completing the cycle of the food chain, wherein if the animal has been hunted and the remains of the flesh are there, it is the vultures who will clean that flesh, and they will complete the cycle of the food chain. So therefore they are very important. They play a valuable role in keeping the wildlife diseases in check as well. So vultures feeding on dead animals help areas get rid of the carcasses, that is the skeleton that remain, which otherwise would provide foul smells and scenery for a much longer period, hence also known as nature's cleanup crew. That is why they are very important. And why is the population depleting? So it was seen that the vulture population in India earlier was quite high, but since the year 1993, their population started to dwindle, and the rate of dwindling was so high that around 90% of the total vulture population right now is said to be extinct, and therefore very limited vulture population exists in India, and hence the more pressing need for conserving their population. So when we talk about what are the different threats that exist for them, and which is why their population has depleted so rapidly. So there are various threats that exist for them. One prominent one is from the poisoning of diclofenac. Now this is something which most of us might have heard in the news before, where diclofenac is a popular chemical which is generally used in our painkillers. The ointment that we use, the principal chemical in those ointments is the diclofenac, which actually gives us the relief. This diclofenac is also used with the animals, and when those animals die, the flesh and the carcass is supposed to be eaten by the vultures, and which is how this diclofenac used to end up in the systems of the vultures, and which is where it started to prove fatal for them. And due to consumption of this diclofenac through the way of the flesh of the cattle and other dead animals which were given diclofenac as a medicine, the vultures also started to face deaths, high amount of deaths due to the consumption. And that is why poisoning from the diclofenac became a major issue, and now the Indian government has banned the use of diclofenac in animals. So this became a major threat. Then loss of the natural habitats due to anthropogenic activities also resulted for lessening of their population, because they don't have much area to cover and live. Then dearth of food, and if there is food, it is contaminated. That is another threat. And electrocution by power lines also became a major reason why vultures started to deplete in their number. So these are some of the threats which we need to check, and what Indian government is doing with respect to their conservation. We'll talk about that, but let's first talk about what are the different types of vultures that exist in India. So there are around 22 species of vultures which exist around in the world. And in India, out of those 22, 9 species are found. They are generally found all over India. And let's take a look at what are those 9 species and what is their IUCN status. So the first one that exists in India is known as the Oriental white-backed vulture. This is all these vultures, all the 9 vultures that we'll see right now are very less in their population, and all the 9 of them require conservation, but some of them differ in their status, where some vultures are critically endangered, others are endangered, and some others are near threatened. So the oriental white-backed vulture, as we can see in the picture, is a critically endangered species in India and hence accorded protection under the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. So this is the oriental white-backed vulture, which is critically endangered. Second vulture which is also critically endangered is the long-billed vulture. This is also critically endangered and hence protected under the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Third vulture is the red-headed vulture, which is also critically endangered and hence protected under Schedule 4 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Next vulture which is also critically endangered is the slender-billed vulture. It is also critically endangered and protected under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. So the four vultures that we saw right now are also the four vultures which the Tamil Nadu government will also be protecting, and apart from this, the Egyptian vulture. This is one other vulture which the Tamil Nadu government would be protecting. So in the state of Tamil Nadu, the vulture population which is seen is mainly of these five vultures which we have seen right now. The critically endangered ones and the Egyptian vulture, which is basically a endangered species of vulture. The first four were critically endangered. This one is a endangered species and therefore protected under the Schedule 4 of the Wildlife Protection Act. These are also the vultures which the Tamil Nadu government would be protecting, because these are the chief species which are found in Tamil Nadu. So the other vultures which exist around India are the Himalayan vulture, which obviously would be found in the Himalayan areas, and the status is near threatened. The other vultures are not critically endangered or endangered. These would be near threatened and therefore protected under the Schedule 4 of the Wildlife Protection Act. The next one is bearded vulture. This is also accorded with near threatened status and protected under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. And the last one, the ninth one, is the cinereous vulture. This is a migratory bird. This vulture is not endemic to India, but it migrates in the time of winter to India. So this is also accorded with the status of near threatened and protected under the Schedule 4 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So these were the 9 species of vultures which we just took a look at, which are found all over India, and but their population is decreasing, and the Tamil Nadu government is protecting the first 4 vultures that we saw along with the Egyptian vulture. So now talking about their conservation efforts. What is the government doing to conserve these vultures? So as we saw, it was recognized that the population of vultures was decreasing very rapidly, and the diclofenac poisoning was becoming a major issue. So in tune to that, the government first introduced the Vulture Conservation Plan in 2006 and then renewed the plan in 2022, where the Vulture Conservation Plan is now on for 2022 to 2025. So under these plans, various things are being done, where a Vulture Action Plan 2022-2025 has been launched for the conservation of vultures. What will it do? It will ensure the minimum use of diclofenac and prevent the poisoning of the principal food of vultures, that is the cattle carcasses. So as we mentioned earlier, the use of diclofenac is going to be restricted. Second, a vulture safe zone program is being implemented at 8 different places in the country where there extant population of vultures, including 2 in Uttar Pradesh. So vulture safe zone program will be implemented, and to upscale the conservation, 4 rescue centers will be opened in all distance, one of which is in Pinjore in north, Bhopal in central India, Guwahati in northeast, and Hyderabad in South India. The center in Pinjore is a critical center where it was established as a vulture care center in Pinjore, and later in 2004 this was upgraded to be the first vulture conservation and breeding center. So this is converted into a breeding center because apart from conserving the vultures, it is also the need to increase their population, and that is why a breeding center is very critical, and this is where the breeding of the vultures will take place to increase their population. So under this Vulture Action Plan of the central government, it is also mandated for the states to make their state level committee and through this, the Tamil Nadu government has formulated a state level committee to conserve these vultures. So these are some of the points with respect to the conservation of vultures and the points which are important from the examination point of view. So with this, let's move on to our next article for the day. This article appeared in yesterday's newspaper and we couldn't take it up yesterday, so we'll take it up today. It reads, "The illusion of being faster than light, how a star problem was solved." Now, to understand this article, let's first take a look at this video. Right? We took a look at this video. What did we see? We actually saw two neutron stars colliding with each other and producing massive levels of energy. This is what became the basis of the research, and this is what the article is talking about, wherein it was seen that this event was seen from by the astrophysicists, and it was seen that these two neutron stars are actually colliding and are together, merging together to form what is known as a black hole. And by this black hole, when this black hole is being formed, a massive amount of light is being emitted, and it was observed that this amount of light is actually much faster than the speed of light. This was what observed in the year 2017, where a laser interferometer gravitational wave, or what we call a LIGO observatory. This is basically a tool to measure the gravitational waves which are traveling in the space. So these LIGO observatories actually recorded a signal which indicated that two massive and dense stellar bodies had merged to form a third body, likely a black hole. This is what was observed, and it was seen that in this process, they gave off vibrations that quite literally shook the universe and its very fabric of space-time. And this much energy was said to be an unusual jet of matter was observed that gave an illusion of traveling faster than the light. So it was seen that since this high amount of energy is being released, it was initially observed that this high amount of energy is actually traveling much faster than the speed of light. So now what has happened is that this was observed first in the year 2017. Now, with the help of other data, the data of same incident has been recorded by the Global Astrometric Interferometer for Astrophysics spacecraft and the Hubble Space Telescope. Data using from these two tools as well, the scientists have confirmed that the above picture is correct, which we saw. So the scientists from the new data have basically confirmed that this event did take place and two neutron stars are colliding and producing a black hole. But the jet of energy that is being released, the massive amount of energy that is being released, it is not much faster than the speed of light, and this is what was caused as an illusion. So let's understand why this illusion was caused and what are exactly neutron stars which are colliding. So this is an image where we can see these are two neutron stars colliding with each other. So what are these neutron stars? Let's take a look at it. The neutron stars are stellar corpses, which means that those stars, like our sun is a star, similarly in other solar systems there are different stars. Whenever a star runs out of its energy and is actually dying, and it explodes via supernova explosion, and once it is dying, those kind of stars are known as neutron stars. Basically that star which is in the stage of dying, left behind after a star has undergone a supernova explosion and reached the end of its lifetime. So this is the stage of the star and is known as a neutron star. They are extremely dense, containing more mass than the sun in a sphere that is few tens of kilometers wide. So for this big a sun, it contains quite a dense amount of mass. And the observation of particles moving at 7 times the speed of light is an illusion. So the thing which we saw, that first the scientists were thinking that these bodies are emitting high amount of light which is much faster than the speed of light, was actually an illusion. This happens in cases where a source moves with a velocity that is very close to the light's velocity. And this is seen in many active galactic nuclei, that is galaxy centers that harbor black holes, and binary star systems within our galaxy where one of the stars is a black hole. And mostly these black holes are responsible for producing such fast moving material. So how does this illusion get created? This illusion actually gets created through a particular phenomenon known as superluminal motion. Now what is this superluminal motion? So from the data, it appeared that jets of matter were moving 7 times faster than light, which is what the earlier observation was. But now it has been identified that it was actually an illusion. The researchers explain that the reason behind this discrepancy is due to the superluminal motion. How is this caused? Since the jet of matter reaches Earth at the speed of light, the light it emits at later points has a relatively shorter distance, making it appear faster than it actually is. And after more calculations, astronomers found the real speed to be at least 99.7% of the speed of light, which is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. This is the actual speed of light. So the real calculations have shown that this body actually has speed of light and slightly lesser than the speed of light. And this was possible by the method of very long baseline interferometry. This is the method that was used to calculate the speed. So these are some of the important information with respect to this article. Mostly this information is important for us from the prelims examination point of view, where we should understand how the neutrons, what are the neutron stars, when they collide, what happened, and what is this illusion and what was the reason behind this illusion. So after understanding this article and the study, what is the significance of this study that is being done? First significance is that we got to understand that neutron stars when collide are creating a massive black hole. And we also learned that the neutron star mergers can result in material moving at speeds as high as 99.7% or 0.997 c, where c is the speed of light. So it gave us the exact speed at which the material will travel when two neutron stars will collide. And apart from that, we also understood that when these two neutron stars collide, a lot of material is given out, and one such material is gamma rays. Gamma rays are also thrown out when neutron stars collide among them. So these are some of the important points which we should know with respect to this article. And with this, we come to the end of today's discussion. We'll meet again tomorrow with the important articles from the newspaper. Thank you.